Some people don't marry because they are in love. They marry because time feels like it is slipping through their hands faster than they expected. At the wedding, everyone sees smiles, laughter, and celebration. But inside, a quiet compromise has already been made. This story isn't about cruel people or evil intentions, and that's what makes it uncomfortable to face. Because the most life-altering decisions are often the ones that feel reasonable, mature, and necessary in the moment. From childhood, most people are taught that marriage is the natural destination of adulthood, not a personal choice. There is an invisible timeline placed in the mind long before anyone understands what love actually is. By a certain age, you are expected to settle down, prove stability, and stop experimenting with life. So when love doesn't arrive on schedule, fear steps in and offers a substitute that looks acceptable. Psychology shows that many people marry not out of desire, but out of emotional exhaustion. They get tired of waiting, explaining themselves, and defending their single status to family and society. Each question feels harmless on its own, but together they slowly push the person toward surrender. Marriage becomes less about connection and more about ending the interrogation. When a good enough partner appears, the mind reframes the situation to reduce inner conflict. It says things like compatibility matters more than passion, or love grows after marriage. These ideas are not always false, but they are often used to silence doubt rather than explore truth. The brain is very skilled at turning fear into logic when comfort is on the line. One of the strongest psychological drivers behind loveless marriages is the fear of being alone. Loneliness is not just about missing companionship. It is about being left alone with your own thoughts. Silence brings questions about purpose, self-worth, and whether life is being lived honestly. Marriage becomes a shield against that silence, even if emotional closeness never truly arrives. Over time, people begin replacing love with other emotions that feel safer and more controllable. Stability replaces passion, routine replaces excitement, and mutual convenience replaces desire. The relationship looks functional on the outside, which reinforces the belief that the choice was correct. But inside, something vital remains untouched, quietly waiting for attention. To survive the decision, the mind builds a narrative that sounds responsible and wise. People say love is overrated, marriage is about duty, or feelings are childish fantasies. These statements act like emotional anesthesia, numbing the discomfort without healing the wound. They don't solve the absence of love. They simply help a person live with it. Another hidden factor is the fear of disappointing others more than disappointing oneself. Parents, relatives, and culture often carry expectations heavier than personal happiness. Choosing not to marry can feel like choosing conflict, rejection, or shame. So people choose peace with others at the cost of war inside themselves. At first, this inner conflict is subtle and easy to ignore. Life stays busy, responsibilities grow, and routines fill the emotional gaps. The absence of love doesn't scream, it whispers, and whispers are easy to dismiss. Years can pass before the weight of that silence becomes impossible to ignore. But here's the unsettling part, because the real consequences don't appear immediately. They surface later, in quiet moments, when life finally slows down. Moments when the mind realizes what the heart understood from the beginning. And what happens after that realization is where this story truly turns dark. The realization rarely arrives dramatically. It usually comes quietly in the middle of an ordinary day. It appears during small moments, like watching your partner laugh and feeling nothing move inside you. At first, the mind tries to dismiss it as stress, aging, or temporary emotional numbness. But the truth has already surfaced, and once seen, becomes impossible to unsee. Psychologically, this moment creates a split between who you are and who you pretend to be. You perform love because it is expected, not because it flows naturally from within. Every affectionate gesture becomes slightly delayed, slightly rehearsed, slightly hollow. This emotional dissonance slowly drains energy in ways people struggle to explain. Many people respond by doubling down on responsibility rather than confronting the absence of love. They focus obsessively on work, children, routines, or external achievements. Productivity becomes a distraction, not a passion, and busyness replaces intimacy. Life stays full, yet emotionally empty. And that contradiction becomes exhausting. Another common coping mechanism is emotional shutdown. To avoid pain, people lower their emotional volume until they barely feel anything at all. Joy, desire, curiosity, and sadness all get muted together. This numbness feels like peace at first, but it slowly erases the sense of being alive. Some begin fantasizing, not always about other people, but about other versions of themselves. They imagine who they might have been if they had waited, chosen differently, or taken a risk. These thoughts are not about betrayal, they are about grief for an unlived life. And grief, when ignored, does not disappear. It turns inward. What makes this psychology especially cruel is that nothing looks wrong from the outside. There is no obvious abuse, no dramatic conflict, no clear reason to leave. Friends may even admire the stability and call it a successful marriage. But inside, the person feels like an actor trapped in a role they never auditioned for. Over time, resentment often replaces sadness, not always toward the partner, but toward oneself for making a choice out of fear. This self-directed anger can leak out as irritability, withdrawal, or quiet bitterness. The marriage becomes a mirror reflecting a decision the person regrets facing. Yet here is the part most people never talk about, because it challenges everything we are taught. Many stay not because they believe things will improve, but because leaving would force honesty. Honesty about wasted time, compromised values, and ignored instincts. Staying feels easier than rebuilding identity from the ground up. But psychology also tells us something hopeful. If uncomfortable, awareness is not punishment, it is an invitation to reclaim agency. Understanding why the choice was made does not erase the past, but it changes the future. Love begins with truth, even when that truth arrives late. If this story felt uncomfortably familiar, that discomfort is not an accident. It is a signal asking you to look closely at your own decisions and motivations. If you believe more people need to hear conversations like this, support this channel. Like the video, subscribe for deeper psychological stories, and comment what this made you reflect on.